Here we are on the West Continental Divide, in the west rim of the Red Desert, about 7,500 feet, looking down on the basin, which is around 6,500 feet. And we can see the rim here. It's a kind of a layered or stepped break in the Wasatch Formation. Clays are bright, colorful, striated clay and claystone escarpments that run for about 40 miles from Oregon Buttes all the way down to Steamboat Mountain. This kind of habitat is especially good for sage grouse. We find a lot of sage grouse around these springs, and in the mile or so on either side of this spring we're standing at, there's about 12 springs and a lot of cover because we have willows, aspens, and alders, and some tall shrubs that make good cover for sage grouse and a number of other nesting birds. But also elk show up here often, especially in the fall and the winter. And there are about 600 or 700 head of elk that utilize this west rim in the wintertime. So these are good shelter areas for animals. In addition, one of these springs runs off of the hill here that we're perched on and down into the desert basin, and right where it hits the flats is the Chicken Springs stage station, which operated from about 1868 to about 1872. But these stage stations were about 20 miles apart across the desert, from Superior to Atlantic City, and later from Point of Rocks, where there was another stage or a stage stop at the railhead, all the way to South Pass City. So in both cases about a 100-mile stretch of stage line. These stage stations were about 20 miles apart because that was about as far as horses were going to pull a stagecoach with people, and at each stage station there was a spring because you need to corral the horses overnight and sometimes change horses, and these springs had to flow enough to supply enough water for the horses, for the backup horses also, and then for the people that were going to stay at these stage stations. Chicken Spring stage station is just a flat spot in the middle of the desert right now. The buildings were removed. I think there was only one building actually, and some corrals. And all of that has disappeared over the years. People use the logs and buildings to haul off for building in probably Atlantic City and some of the other gold mining towns. So all you see now is a flat spot in the middle of a vast desert. There was a lot of traffic on the stage road from the railhead at Superior to Atlantic City because it was a booming gold mining town in 1868. Population probably went from 0 in 1868 to about 800 or 900 in 1869. South Pass City in that same period of time, 1 year now, probably went up close to 10,000. And that was right next door. That's 5 miles away. So eventually the main stage route went to South Pass City. There was a lot of traffic, people coming in constantly from the railroad, which was only finished in 1868. So that was the first time really that you could have a mining town grow that fast. It was due to the railroad coming through the southern part of the Red Desert and providing these stations where you could depart for the gold districts. There was South Pass City, Atlantic City, Lewiston, Miner's Delight, and Hamilton City. Some people consider Hamilton City and Miner's Delight to be the same town, but actually it was originally Hamilton City up on the hill, and then they moved it down a half a mile to the east and renamed it Miner's Delight. But the old town was still up on the hill where there were some mines, and they're still visible today. The mines are in some of the buildings. In those days, this looked like a wasteland without much hope. Today, it looks pretty. We make national parks out of places like this.